Hey guys, what's going on? You're in the secret level here with Gurns, and it's time for another secret level tip. And this time it's going to be some things that you can do to make your mining and your filling a little bit easier and just faster, basically. And by filling, guys, I mean filling in caves, for different farms and such, if you want to do that. Like this one here, I've got all these caves underneath filled in to prevent spawns from going down there. Alright, so that being said, guys, some of the information here might be a little bit obvious to, some players that are a bit more seasoned and such. So if you find that everything here you already knew, or that it wasn't too helpful, I'm sorry, but I wanted to make a video that was kind of, helpful for some players that are a little bit newer, and you never know, there might be one or two tips you might take from here as well. Alright, so anyway, I know throughout my first couple playthroughs, I really didn't mine very efficiently, like not as efficiently as I could have been, and once I had found out about a couple things here and there, I just wished I had known that like right from the start, especially filling in caves too. Like I used to not even bother doing it just because it took me too long, and I just didn't bother doing it. But since then I've discovered, I don't know, a couple things to do to make it a little bit easier and so forth, right? So anyway, we'll check out the tip room here and see what we got in this chest right here. So first off are some items here, guys, and the first two being the builder potion and the mining potion. I highly recommend having more or less an unlimited supply of these things because they're very handy to have and you can get them fairly early and easily. So the builder potion here, it requires blink root, moon glow, and shiverthorn, as well as the bottled water obviously, but that's very easy to get. Just have some sort of herb farm set up and you'll be able to have more or less an unlimited supply of these things. So the mining potion here requires blink root and again bottled water obviously, but also antlion mandibles. So if you want an unlimited supply of those, which I highly recommend, and you don't already have an antlion farm, then you might want to check out my AFK Antlion Farm. I'll leave it in the description below. There'll be a link there for it. You can check that out if you want because it gets me a ton of these antlion mandibles very, very fast, and you can actually build it very early too if you want. You don't necessarily need traps, just lava, and you should be good. Alright, so that being said, guys, the next thing here is the Architect Gizmo Pack, and that is a combination of 4 different accessories that you grab from the traveling merchant whenever he decides to pop by. He might be selling 1 or 2 of them, maybe even 3 actually if you're super lucky, I guess. But that being said, there's only really 2 that are more important for this purpose here, mining and block placement, and that would be the Extendo Grip and the Brick Layer. The other 2 being the Cement Layer and the Automatic Paint Sprayer, I think it's called, or the Cement Mixer. So yeah, anyway, that being said, the next one here is the Tool Belt, which I don't use, but I'll mention it anyway. It increases your block placement range by 1, and that's probably why I don't use it, because it doesn't increase the speed at all, just the placement range by 1, which I don't find to be too significant, but you can grab it if you want from the Goblin Merchant. Now the next is the mining helmet and the mining set in general. I just don't have the armor or the boots because they're very rare, and I never really bother to get them because they're very rare. They drop off the Undead Miner very rarely, like only 4 or 5% drop chance, I believe it is. And the Undead Miner itself is very uncommon as well. It spawns in the Cavern Lair, and I just find grinding for those things and trying to find that armor set just really defeats the purpose of speeding up that mining speed. Alright, so anyway, you can grab it if you want, though it's really up to you guys. Now the next 3 here basically are the Moonstone, the Sunstone, and once you combine these things with a couple other accessories, it becomes the Celestial Shell. And these will also increase your mining speed, the Moonstone during the night and the Sunstone during the day, and once you combine them into the Celestial Shell with a couple other accessories, like I said, it will be both night and day, so you don't have to worry about that. So yeah, anyway guys, those are the items here. Now we'll get on to the next part. So now I'll mention a couple things about mining, guys, and the first one being that the maximum mining speed you can have is 70%. Now you can technically go up to 100% if you get all the right items, but it will cap out at 70%. The extra 30% won't really do anything at all basically, so it would be pointless to have it. So yeah, 70% is the maximum mining speed you can have. Now that being said, The next thing here is the difference between pickaxe power and mining speed. Now, pickaxe power is a fairly obvious stat. It's displayed on the item, and it decides how much damage you do to a block as well as what blocks you can do damage to. So that being said, it obviously helps your overall mining process because the more damage you do to a block, the faster it gets destroyed. Now, mining speed is actually a separate stat and a hidden stat, and that determines how fast you damage the block, not how much damage you do to it, which will also overall help the mining process as well. Now, that can be a little bit tricky. You don't really have to worry about that though until you start getting into drills and stuff like that. So earlier on, you really don't have to worry about that. The gold one is obviously better than silver, and silver is better than copper, and so on, right? So anyway, that being said, if you look at the laser drill I have here, it has 230% pickaxe power, and the pick saw here has 210% pickaxe power, so 20% less. You would think the pick saw would mine less then, generally speaking at least. Now let's see if that's the case though. So we'll go down here, do some mining, first with the laser drill. Okay, and now with the pick saw. And now you can see that the pick saw is clearly a lot faster, even though it's sitting at 20% less pickaxe power, and that's because it has a faster mining speed. Okay, so that's mining speed and pickaxe power, guys. Now, the other thing, or another thing I was going to mention basically, is drills and pickaxes. Which one to pick, basically. Now, at some point in time, basically, once you start getting to the later tier pickaxes and drills, you'll be able to make, both of them, basically. You'll get drills as another option along pickaxes, as per usual, basically. Now, they both seem more or less the same stat-wise, so you're not going to be sure which one to build. I actually usually used to build drills first all the time because they're new. So that being said, though, pickaxes are technically better, and that's because even though they both have the same pickaxe power, pickaxes always have a faster mining speed than their associated drill. So overall, they mine faster, and also pickaxes can benefit from prefixes that increase speed. Like this one, as you can see here, has the light prefix giving it plus 16% speed, making it mine even faster. Whereas if you gave a percent speed prefix to a drill, it actually doesn't change the mining speed at all for drills, only with pickaxes, right? So that being said, I'll just show you real quick here. You can see that I'm putting on the drill. I'll use the drill first, or orichalcum. Alright, so there you go. Pretty slow, at least from what I'm used to. And oops, what am I doing? Okay, and now the pickaxe orichalcum. Okay, so you can see that's quite a bit faster once again. And again, that's because of the mining speed, alright? So the last thing I was going to mention too real quick is once you're able to get a hold of the snowman cannon, which drops during the frost moon event, it is an awesome tool to use for mining. Because all you have to do basically is get rocket 4s from the cyborg NPC. He sells them during a blood moon or solar eclipse, and if you use it with the snowman cannon, it will not damage you, the actual rockets, as opposed to other rocket launchers, and it's a great way to mine. As you can see right here, it's just ridiculous. As you can see, I'm just going crazy mining stuff and not taking any damage from the rockets, obviously, like I would with other kind of rocket launchers. So yeah, very convenient way to do mining that way if you can get a hold of that snowman cannon. A little bit later on though, again, it's during the frost moon event. Alright, so anyway, we'll get on to the next part here. So now for a couple filling in tips, guys, and I know that filling in those caves underneath your farm or wherever you have to fill in basically can seem like a chore. I know it did to me, at least. I hated doing it at first, but once I learned a couple of these tips here, it really didn't take too long anymore, and I find it not annoying anymore. I get it done very quickly, alright? So that being said, the first one here is making sure to use that smart cursor. And I know that can seem obvious to some players, but just in case for those that it's not, the smart cursor is in the settings here, right over here, and you can change the key bindings if you want in the controls. But it's great for mining, obviously, but since I guess it came out, they've done some updates to it, and it's much more convenient now for block placement as well. So for example, if I want to fill in this little tunnel here, I just stand right here, hold the cursor more or less close to me, and just start letting it fill in and walk forward as it fills in, just like that. So I guess it fills in some of the top there as well. So, but yeah, nice and easy to fill in those caves if you have to. And same with up here. If I want to, let's say I have this cave up here that I need to fill in because it's underneath one of my farms. I don't want enemies to spawn there. I just kind of jump around, hold the cursor more or less close to my guy, or maybe close to where I'm wanting to build, and just hold it down. And obviously I make sure I have my builder potion buff up, which I do, as well as the architect gizmo pack here, or you know, the block placement buff ones if you don't yet have all 4. Alright, so yeah, you can see it's very quickly filling in here, and I'm not really having to aim anything anywhere, so it's not too annoying. Very efficient, very easy, and you can get it done in no time. Alright, so that being said, guys, one other thing you can do that's pretty convenient actually to fill in your caves if you want is use sand. Now, if you're going to use sand, I want to make sure to mention that you might want to get some sand from another world, because if you're going to use it to fill in caves, you'll need a lot of it, and you don't want to run out of sand in your own world because it's you know, it doesn't regenerate, and you need it for some pretty important things like making glass, which will make bottles, which will make bottled water, which makes all your different buff potions. So pretty important to not run out of sand. Alright, so anyway, sand, if you just hold it at like the top here, you know, floating in the air but connected to some sort of block, it will just fall and automatically start filling in just like that. So that can be very convenient. Even if it's like this high up here, it will fill in all the way. So yeah, pretty convenient to fill it in this way with sand. But once again, guys, I would recommend getting sand from a different world if you're going to use sand like this, because it is quite faster, but you don't want to run out of sand because it is pretty important. Alright, so anyway, that's it for this part, guys. Alright guys, so there's some tips on mining and filling in those caves and stuff. So I know whenever I learned these tips one at a time, it was always after I had built something or dug something out, and I had just wished that I had known it, you know, 30 minutes before or something. So that being said, I hope it helps some people, you know, give them a bit of a heads up on a tip or two that they may have taken from here before they build something, and that way it'll make it a bit quicker for them and easier. Alright, so anyway, that being said, guys, if I did help, be sure to leave a like, that way I know I'm helping some people out. And if you want, you can subscribe here to join me, Gurns, because I'm always making new videos like this, as well as other types of farm videos, and a new Let's Play series that I'm quite stoked to start, and very soon about to start. So, that being said, guys, I hope to catch you next time, and this is Gurns exiting the secret level. Alright, take it easy, guys.